Hello out there, guys. Hope you're doing well. You're joining me at a very interesting moment. It's started belting down with rain here. So if you hear some thunder and lightning in the background, then that'll be why. Been trying to shoot this video for the last half an hour. There's been all kinds of interruptions as normal, cleaners showing up and what have you. It doesn't surprise me given the subject matter that I'm going to get into. But before I do, guys, if you're new, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting below. All that stuff helps me out immensely, as you know. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I want to speak today about entities. I've obviously covered this subject a lot on my channel. I haven't spoke about it specifically for a while, so I wanted to make a specific video for the new people that are subscribing to my channel. I have new people all the time. I'm really looking to help people understand, how they work and what they are and all that kind of stuff, really. So I think it's good to start with what are entities? That's a good question. Now, the way I see this reality is that we're kind of stuck in like a computer game. And this computer game has got a virus. It's been, I believe, overlaid. And it's turned into a little bit of an evil game. And I don't think it was always supposed to be like that. But like I say, there's this virus, and there's authors like Carlos Castaneda talks about the Whythe and all that kind of stuff. So he kind of touches on the subjects, but I really want to go deep onto this topic. So imagine we're in this kind of like computer game, this what I call gangster version of Sims. And within this kind of distortion or virus resides these entities that are just outside of our visible sight. As humans, we're basically blind as to what else is out there. We can see like I don't know what the exact amount is, but like 0.2% of the visible spectrum. And so we have a lot of stuff going on around us that we can't see and can't perceive because we're kept into the main senses, sight, hearing, feeling, smell, and so most people think that this is all there is, everything that they can see with their physical eyes, this is all there is. But in the next dimension to us is the fourth dimension, and this is where these entities reside. And basically these entities are what I would describe as like computer programs. I don't believe them to be source connected. And yeah, so there is a whole plethora of different entity races, and there are entity races within entity races. So you have different variations of dragon entities, you have different variations of serpent entities, you have winged serpent, you have the four-headed snake, you have different versions of demonic entities, you have demiurge, you have the alien beings, so you have like the Pleiadians and the Arcturians and the Andromedans, which are all heavily promoted within the New Age circles, of course. And then you have, which I would actually describe as a false white light being, because a lot of people look to aliens as some kind of guide or something like that. And then you have the other false white light beings, the angels and Archangel Michael and the ascended masters. These are all also entities. Then you have the Hindu gods and the Egyptian god and all these people doing goddess rituals, and I've spoken a lot about my channel about yoga. People giving their energy to these entities, these deities, and all these gods. And I spoke recently about what I think the real God here is, this kind of AI system. And these gods that are presented to us by the Matrix are simply entities. And when people are worshipping them, doing rituals, praying, you're literally giving your energy to these entities. You're giving them strength, essentially. So these disconnected computer programs they're not very creative. They're one-trick ponies, and they know that we are the creative beings here. And I would go as far to say that they're very jealous of us. I definitely know that they're incredibly scared of us. I can tell you that because of one day I'll write a book about this, but the level of interference that people go through when even thinking about having a session or booking the session, their internet goes down, or we can't connect, and things like that, because these entities, well, they don't want to be discovered, and they certainly don't want to be removed from their host, right? The host is the one that they're feeding from. And so basically what they are is, and they hate being called this, but I'm going to call them this anyway, is they're parasites. They are like cockroaches. They're like mosquitoes. And I think it's really important that when people talk about these entities, that we don't give them too much power. Sometimes I get emails from people, and don't get me wrong, some people are, more targeted than others. I don't even like using the word targeted, because you start using terms like that and then you become a victim, and then you're giving your power away to them, and then essentially you're feeding them, because if you're elevating them and putting them on a pedestal and thinking that they're all powerful and they've got like complete control over you, and don't get me wrong, I'm going to go into how problematic some of them can be. You are feeding the beast, essentially. So we have to, the rain's really coming down now, kind of like synchro mysticism there. So we have to be careful how we talk about them. And so, like I say, yeah, they're not very creative, and yeah, they're one-trick ponies, and they feed on our energy. We human beings, this is the kicker, this is the positive side, is we are incredible energy batteries, if you like. And we are the batteries that power the matrix, like is in the movie, where everyone's plugged in. And if we could only realize that and just ponder on that fact that you are an incredible source of energy, and that energy never dies, they can get tricked back in. So we've spoken about that on other videos. That's why it's important to learn how to die properly and research what happens at the point of passing. So they feed on our energy, all our energy, but they particularly like low vibration, low frequency energy. So they like death, anger, fear, sadness, depression, all that kind of stuff. And it makes sense, because if you look at the world around us, the world is instigated, and I've spoken about how it's set up as a trauma-based reality to generate that energy from humans. So many humans have suffered trauma. So many humans have suffered from the hands of government, living in poverty, and the way that they have set up society in terms of making things scarce and having to pay for things like food, and it's a constant struggle, it's a constant stress. And then you have things like big satanic rituals like war, which are huge feasts for these entities. And actually there's really interesting information about, in the Vietnam War, a lot of the pilots were seeing demons in the sky. And you imagine what was going on there with all the death and destruction and the food. They must have had an absolute frenzy. And, obviously these entities can then fully possess these people, which, if you look at my last video that I was talking about God, some of the deeds that these people got up to in terms of what they were doing to women and children, you have to say that that is not a fully functioning human being. That sounds like someone that is possessed. And I believe that this is what happens. I believe a lot of these, not even soldiers, but if you're going to go down a certain path, essentially you are going to open yourself up to possession. So, for example, going to war and killing and murdering people is obviously going to do something to your frequency, your energy. Probably it opens portals as well. And of course, these entities have an easy way in. But there's other ways in terms of, for example, alcoholics or drug addicts. I mean, I've spoken often about how alcohol opens you up, and you look at the word spirits, it's telling you spirits, right? And gin and tonic. What is gin? Gin is a demon. The word alcohol is the Arabic demon Al-Ghul. Rain's really coming down heavy here now. I hope I don't lose connection. Normally here in Mexico it starts to... it's going to lift the table forward. Yeah, so yeah, when we engage in these things are set up in society to open us up. Why is alcohol ingrained in society so much? I'm here in Mexico. They love alcohol. Tequila, mezcal, everything centers around alcohol. I'm from the UK. Same thing there. You finish work, you have a drink. You have a wedding, you go for it, you get drunk. It's a funeral, you get drunk. It's ingrained in society. Why is that? Because it opens us up to these entities. And obviously drugs do as well. And I've spoken about psychedelics, which, triggers a lot of people on my channel, but it does. And I've spoken often about how I work with people and how they've run into problems after they've taken things like ayahuasca and things like that. And then you have like the harder drugs like cocaine and meths and things like that. They also can come in, or they can come in quite strongly on trauma, and particularly people that have suffered abuse. Quite often they have very heavy attachments. And also, they're always coming in on your unhealed wounds, your triggers. Every time, there's this meme going round, right, that every time you smile, a reptilian goes hungry, right? And that's kind of true, because if you do the work on yourself, and I'm not saying I'm completely healed, but you do become less triggered. The less triggered you become, then the less ways they have to use those hooks into you. So every time you get triggered or anything like that, they will often come in and infiltrate. So they have many different ways, the chakras being another one, which I'm going to make another video about soon, because I haven't done a video on that for a long, long time. That's one of their main ways in. So, so they have many ways in, and then when they infiltrate our energy, they're depending on the level of attachment, right? So I grade them 1 to 3. So grade 1 is what I would consider like a full-on possession. We've all seen them on films and things like that. And yeah, basically someone, often if you've heard of like drugs like flakka and meths, sometimes that person has like superhuman powers. Well, that's not coming from the human. That's because there's almost like a full possession going on, and those people are really in trouble when it gets to that point. So that would be like your level 1. Now your level 2 attachments are quite often with people that have been like sexually abused, or people, cocaine addicts, alcoholics, where and it's probably not normally just one entity, it's not probably several different entities. They have a very strong hold on the person, and they influence the person greatly. In terms of suicidal thoughts is a common one. People often come to me and they'll often say they're getting suicidal thoughts, and they're not their own. I had one example recently of where this woman was driving, and she said a voice came in her head to drive the car into a wall, and it wasn't her voice. So they're quite common, and they're particularly more problematic, and they get in on the heavy drugs and the trauma and the abuse and things like that. So that's your level 2, and your level 3 are like the annoying voices in the head that you get all the time. They'll be the ones that if you've got a bad habit, they'll be encouraging it. So say your thing's drinking, they'll be like, "Go on, Joe, just have another glass of wine. Give up after Christmas, you know." Or like even little things, like anything that's going to benefit you, they'll be the voice in the head. Like just say you want to go for a walk on the beach or in nature, right? Because that's not good for them, because that raises your frequency, and it puts you in alignment with the magnetic frequency of the planet. And so they'll be like, "Look, Joe, it's gonna rain. Don't bother going out today," or "It's too late," or anything that's not going to benefit them. Just say you have an idea, like you want to start a business, and that business is going to really help people. They'll be like, you might fail, like people aren't going to like it. You're going to, like, what if you run out of money? Like there'll be the voices in the head giving you doubts, right? So what people realize is a lot of the voices that we have in the head aren't actually ours. And so, yeah, that's your level 3. And of course it goes way much deeper as well, whereby they will particularly target someone in the astral that is on a certain path. I've experienced that myself, and many people that I work with have experienced it. They use our big weakness, love, because let's face it, we all want love, we all want to be loved, and especially with the way the world is, it's kind of lonely out there as well at times. So everyone's looking for that. They know that, and they're extremely cruel in the fact that, and if you look into the interviews that I've done with Eve Lorgan, is that they will set up relationships in the astral, and those people will appear as everything you could have dreamed of. And you'll fall for them, and then over time, the personality starts to change, and then you realise you're actually dealing with a sociopath, stroke psychopath, and maybe that person's gaslit you or started a smear campaign or what have you, and so their idea is to try and take you off your path, right? Off your path of purpose. So they give a lot of people a lot of trauma to deal with at the start. So most people, or not most people, but a lot of people spend their time either spending a long time trying to heal themselves, or some people don't even make it. Some people turn to drugs or alcohol or even suicide. So it's a very nefarious thing that they're doing, but it's really important that we sort of understand the ways in which they can attach and how they will leverage things to their advantage. Yeah, I think when a lot of people are doing really evil things or bad things, particularly when you look at like murderers and stuff like that, I honestly believe them to be basically a vessel with an entity within them. And if you listen to a lot of reports from people that survived murders and stuff like that, they often say that the eyes went black, or the person says, "Don't look at the eyes," because the eyes are the window to the soul, right? So we are sharing this game, this reality, with these entities. And a lot of people think that they just work through politicians and world leaders. And I think that's a big misconception within the sort of alternative media, in the fact that most people have entity attachments to some degree or another. Just some people have more severe ones than others. And so, yeah, this is where it really is at. I mean, people talk about all the corruption in politics and all that kind of stuff. That's really skimming the surface. If you really want to know why there's so much evil in the world and where it's coming from, this is why. Because we are surrounded with people not everyone's, you know, going to be a murderer and stuff like that. But my point is that this reality is being shared with these entities. Um, and of course, they're master deceivers as well, as I've spoken so much about the false light beings, the false light entities that masquerade themselves. And so these are really prominent in the New Age, as you'll know from my videos, the ones that I mentioned before. So those ones really fly under the radar. I hope that gives you a bit of a background as to how these parasites work. If you feel you would like my help helping clearing this stuff, or you would like to learn how to clear this stuff yourself, I have everything on my website, as well as the course that I'm offering, which is transcendingtimes.org. I'll put the link below. But guys, other than that, have a great weekend, and I will see you again very soon. Take care.